When billionaire tech mogul Ethan Caldwell invited his office cleaning lady, Amara Johnson, to his exclusive gala as a cruel prank, he expected her to be the night's laughingstock. Instead, Amara walked in radiating elegance and confidence, turning heads and flipping the script on everyone in the room, especially Ethan. Amara Johnson had worked as a cleaner at Caldwell Technologies for 3 years. Every evening, she moved silently through the sleek, glass-walled offices in downtown San Francisco, emptying trash cans, wiping down desks, and polishing conference room tables. Her presence was barely noticed by the employees who breezed past her, their minds occupied with stock options and product launches. To them, Amara was just part of the background, a faceless figure in a navy blue uniform who kept their workspace spotless. But Amara saw everything: the late-night meetings, the whispered deals, the egos that clashed over coffee. She heard the way people spoke about her, too, when they thought she wasn't listening. "The cleaning lady," they'd say, with a dismissive chuckle, as if her existence began and ended with a mop. Ethan Caldwell, the 38-year-old CEO of Caldwell Technologies, was the worst of them. He'd built his empire on a string of apps that promised to disrupt everything from grocery delivery to personal finance. With a net worth of $2.4 billion, he lived a life of tailored suits, private jets, and penthouse parties. His annual gala, held at his sprawling mansion in Pacific Heights, was the event of the year for San Francisco's elite. Tech tycoons, venture capitalists, and influencers clamored for an invitation, knowing it was a chance to rub shoulders with the city's power players. The guest list was curated with precision, a who's who of wealth and influence. So when Ethan, in a moment of bored amusement, decided to invite Amara as a joke, it was a decision born of arrogance and cruelty. The idea came to him one evening while he was working late. Amara was vacuuming the hallway outside his office, her movements steady and deliberate. Ethan, sipping a $200 bottle of bourbon, leaned back in his chair and smirked at his CFO, Marcus Reed. "What if we invited the cleaning lady to the gala?" he said, his voice dripping with mockery. Marcus laughed, assuming it was a throwaway comment. But Ethan's eyes gleamed with mischief. "No, seriously. Let's see if she shows up. Imagine her in that uniform, trying to mingle with the crowd." The two men chuckled, picturing the awkwardness, the humiliation. Ethan scribbled a note to his assistant, instructing her to send Amara an official invitation. He didn't expect her to accept. He figured she'd be too embarrassed, too aware of her place. But if she did show up, it would be a story to tell for years. Amara received the invitation in her mailbox at the small apartment she shared with her teenage daughter, Kiana, in Oakland. The envelope was heavy, embossed with gold lettering and Ethan's personal crest. She turned it over in her hands, confused. She'd never spoken to Ethan beyond a polite "good evening" when he passed her in the halls. Why would he invite her to his gala? Kiana, a sharp 16-year-old with dreams of becoming a lawyer, read the invitation over her mother's shoulder. "This has to be a mistake," she said, frowning. "Or a trick." Amara nodded slowly, her instincts telling her the same. She'd overheard enough at Caldwell Technologies to know how people like Ethan operated. They didn't invite people like her to their world unless they wanted something, or wanted to make a point. Still, Amara didn't toss the invitation in the trash. She placed it on her kitchen table, where it sat for days, a silent challenge. She thought about her life, her childhood in a small town in Georgia, where she'd been raised by a single mother who cleaned houses to make ends meet. Amara had followed in her footsteps, not out of choice but necessity, after her husband left when Kiana was a baby. She'd worked hard to provide for her daughter, taking night shifts so she could be there for school drop-offs and parent-teacher conferences. Cleaning offices wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and Amara took pride in her work. She wasn't invisible, no matter how much people like Ethan tried to make her feel that way. The more she thought about the invitation, the more it gnawed at her. She knew it was likely a setup, a chance for Ethan and his friends to laugh at her expense. But something inside her stirred, a quiet defiance. She'd spent years being overlooked, underestimated. Maybe it was time to show them who she really was. "If they want me there," she told Kiana one evening, "I'm going to show up. But I'm not going as their joke." Kiana's eyes lit up. "Then let's make sure you steal the show, Mama." Amara didn't have money for a designer gown or a stylist, but she had something better: ingenuity and a daughter who knew her way around the internet. Kiana spent hours researching fashion blogs and thrift store hacks, pulling together ideas for a look that would turn heads. They scoured local consignment shops, finding a second-hand gown in deep emerald green, its fabric shimmering under the store's fluorescent lights. It was a size too big, but Amara had learned to sew from her mother, and she spent nights altering it to fit her curves perfectly. Kiana found a pair of gold heels online, slightly scuffed but elegant, and a friend from church offered to do Amara's hair and makeup. The transformation took weeks of careful planning, but Amara didn't rush. If she was going to walk into Ethan's world, she was going to do it on her terms. The night of the gala arrived, and Amara stood in front of her bedroom mirror, hardly recognizing herself. The gown hugged her figure, its color rich against her dark skin. Her hair was swept into an elegant updo, with soft curls framing her face. Kiana had insisted on a bold red lip, and when Amara saw the effect, she didn't argue. She looked like she belonged, not just at the gala, but anywhere. Kiana beamed, snapping photos on her phone. "They're not ready for you," she said, her voice full of pride. Amara took a deep breath, steadying herself. She wasn't nervous, not exactly. She was ready. The gala was held at Ethan's mansion, a sprawling estate with marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. Guests arrived in a parade of luxury cars, their laughter and chatter filling the air as they stepped onto the red carpet. Photographers snapped pictures, and influencers posed for selfies, their followers watching live on social media. Ethan stood at the entrance, greeting his guests with a practiced smile, his tuxedo impeccable. He'd almost forgotten about the invitation he'd sent Amara, assuming she wouldn't show. When a sleek black car pulled up and Amara stepped out, he didn't recognize her at first. Neither did anyone else. Amara moved with a quiet confidence, her heels clicking against the stone walkway. The crowd parted as she approached, whispers rippling through the guests. Who was she? A celebrity? A foreign dignitary? Her gown caught the light, and her posture was regal, her chin lifted just enough to command attention. Ethan's smile faltered as she reached the entrance and handed her invitation to the attendant. "Amara Johnson," she said, her voice clear and steady. The attendant checked the list, nodded, and waved her through. Ethan's jaw tightened. She'd actually come. Inside, the gala was a spectacle of wealth. Waiters circulated with trays of champagne, and a string quartet played in the corner. Amara took a glass, her movements graceful, and scanned the room. She recognized faces from Caldwell Technologies, executives who'd never bothered to learn her name, assistants who'd left coffee cups on their desks for her to clean. They didn't recognize her now, not in this context. She overheard snippets of conversation as she moved through the crowd, people speculating about her identity. "Is she an investor?" one woman whispered. "She's got to be someone important," another said. Amara didn't seek out Ethan right away. She mingled, striking up conversations with ease. She spoke with a venture capitalist about the tech industry's blind spots, her insights sharp and informed from years of listening to boardroom discussions. She charmed a group of influencers with stories of her daughter's ambitions, her warmth disarming their usual cynicism. People were drawn to her, not just because of her appearance but because of her presence. She wasn't trying to impress anyone, she was simply being herself. Ethan watched from across the room, his amusement turning to unease. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Amara was supposed to be out of place, awkward, a fish out of water. Instead, she was the center of attention, and not in a way that anyone could mock. Marcus, standing beside him, leaned in and muttered, "Who is that woman?" Ethan didn't answer. He couldn't. His prank was backfiring, and he didn't know how to regain control. As the night went on, Amara's presence shifted the dynamic of the gala. People who'd never spoken to her at work now sought her out, intrigued by the mysterious woman who seemed to know more about their industry than they did. She didn't flaunt her knowledge, but when asked, she answered with a clarity that made people listen. One executive, a man who'd once snapped at her for vacuuming too loudly, approached her with a sheepish smile. "I feel like we've met before," he said. Amara smiled back, her eyes sharp. "Maybe we have," she replied, leaving it at that. The turning point came during the gala's charity auction. Ethan had planned it as a highlight of the evening, a chance for his guests to show off their wealth while supporting a cause. The auctioneer called for volunteers to start the bidding, and to everyone's surprise, Amara raised her hand. The room went quiet. Ethan's smirk returned, thinking she was about to embarrass herself. But Amara bid confidently, offering $10,000 for a piece of abstract art. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Where had she gotten that kind of money? In truth, Amara had no intention of paying. She knew the bids were non-binding until the end of the night, and she was playing the game to make a point. She matched every bid, driving the price higher, forcing the room's heavy hitters to compete with her. By the end, the painting sold for $50,000, and Amara graciously stepped back, letting someone else claim it. The crowd applauded, impressed by her boldness. Ethan couldn't take it anymore. He approached her as the auction ended, his face a mix of irritation and curiosity. "Amara," he said, his voice low, "you're full of surprises." She met his gaze, unflinching. "You invited me, Mr. Caldwell. I assumed you wanted me to make an impression." Her words were polite, but there was steel beneath them. Ethan opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came out. For the first time, he felt small in her presence. The rest of the night was a blur of conversations and connections. Amara didn't stay until the end. She left quietly, slipping out before the final speeches. But her impact lingered. Guests talked about her for weeks, trying to piece together who she was. Some dug into her background, only to be stunned when they learned she was the cleaning lady at Caldwell Technologies. The story spread on social media, with influencers posting about the mystery woman who'd stolen the show. A few even tracked down Amara, asking for interviews. She declined, uninterested in their sudden attention. At work, things changed. Employees who'd ignored her now greeted her by name. Executives asked her opinions, realizing she'd been listening all along. Ethan, meanwhile, couldn't shake the feeling that he'd been outplayed. He called Amara into his office one afternoon, ostensibly to discuss her hours. But when she sat across from him, he found himself apologizing. "I underestimated you," he said, his voice gruff. Amara didn't gloat. "Most people do," she replied. She didn't ask for a raise or a promotion, though Ethan offered both. Instead, she asked for one thing: respect. Not just for her, but for everyone who worked behind the scenes to keep his company running. Word of Amara's night at the gala reached beyond Caldwell Technologies. A local nonprofit, impressed by her poise and story, offered her a role as a community liaison, a job that paid better and used her ability to connect with people. Amara accepted, leaving her cleaning job behind. Kiana, inspired by her mother's courage, started a blog about their experience, which caught the attention of scholarship programs. She was accepted into a prestigious pre-law program, her future bright. Ethan never invited Amara to another gala, but he didn't need to. She'd already made her point. The joke had been on him, and the lesson was one he wouldn't forget. Amara Johnson wasn't just a cleaning lady, she was a force, and she'd reminded everyone that true power doesn't come from wealth or status. It comes from knowing who you are and refusing to let anyone else define you.